Hello everybody, in today's video I'm going to be showing you a design that has a little like shovel in the ground, and it looks like it's just a shovel in the ground, but then if you dig and you lift up that shovel, there is a dinosaur skeleton underneath the surface. I love it. It's such a cool concept. I love making nails where it looks like one thing and you're like, oh, that's what it is, and then boom, there's a surprise. So that's what we have happening here. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. I love creating these surprise elements and using magnets. And don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So to begin with, I'm going to create a very thin area of black acrylic. This is going to be where my dinosaur is. And while I'm making that thin area, on the very top edge and the bottom edge of it, I'm going to embed a magnet. So place your little magnets inside there. And if you're interested, I do have a link down below where you can buy some magnets from my online store. After I have that very thin area, I'm going to start covering up the perimeter with a mixed bead of some browns. So I'm going to do like a lighter brown and a darker brown just so that it doesn't look so smooth. We want it to look like dirt. So give it some, rough texture. Even with the tip of your brush, just kind of mess it up and expose those magnets for the most part. If you completely expose them, they aren't going to be hidden and discreet, but if they're totally covered up 100% with a thick layer of acrylic, they're also not going to be very strong. So you want them to be not necessarily super visible, but not buried deeply either. I hope that makes sense. So just go all the way around the perimeter so you leave basically a crater in the center of the nail. This is not strong, so don't think of this nail as something that's really built for strength. No strength here, just art, just fun. So I've got my little perimeter going all the way around. I've got my cavity in the center for where you're going to dig out your dinosaur skeleton. And after you've pretty much got this whole thing done, let it cure so that the black acrylic that you used underneath is solid, so the color isn't going to bleed up through your lighter tone. And then using either white or an off-white color, which I'm going to be using an off-white instead of bright white, start sculpting your skeleton. The fabulous thing with this is that if you don't sculpt an entire skeleton, like if you run out of space, that is fine because maybe there's more digging to be done. So if you wanted to just do a big skull, you could definitely go that route. Or if you want to try to sculpt tiny and do, as many little bones as you can possibly fit in there, you can do that as well. And have fun with this. Do whatever kind of dinosaur skeleton you want. There is so many pieces of inspiration that can be found on the internet simply by typing in dino skeleton or dino skeleton clip art. I love to use the word clip art because that'll give you simplified images instead of this incredibly complex, museum quality skeleton that is, got a million little bones. You can get something a little bit more transferable to a nail. If you use the word clip art or cartoon, it just gives you some simplified stuff to look at. So that's one of my tips for you. So I'm going to have my little dinosaur. I've got some little back spikes going down the back. I didn't want to do a T-Rex. I have already sculpted a very thin little T-Rex. It's a similar concept to this where it's the T-Rex bones hidden underneath the flesh. Really cool. I will put a link to that one down below because it is just such a fun design. And the design that I was looking at and I thought, ooh, I loved making that. So I wanted to do something different but similar. So here we are. So those two would go together if you wanted to do like part of a set. After you have all of your bones sculpted and they're cured, they're not going to be, messed up by doing this. Wrap the nail as tightly as you possibly can with some aluminum foil. Kind of really press in so you get the shape of the cavity. Add your two new magnets on top of the ones that are already in the nail. They'll snap right into position. Then using the same mix of browns you used around the perimeter of your hole, fill in the cavity, which you should be able to tell where it is based on the way that the foil kind of presses down into the hole. And same thing, kind of mess with it. You don't make it a super smooth line. Don't make the edge of this very smooth either. The more uneven and natural looking it is, the least obvious it will be on top of the nail. Go through and keep adding those little bits. And then after you're satisfied with this, set this to the side so that it can cure completely. Once it has, and you're confident you're not going to mess it up, take it off of the nail and then just peel the aluminum foil out from inside, and it should fit right on top of that little hole. You can pick off any little straggler pieces from the top piece that are hanging out, and then you're good to go. On a nail form backing, we're going to begin sculpting all of the tools. When you look at, this is the same situation when you're trying to find reference photos, type in something like archaeologist tool clip art, and then you're going to find all the different, good options for what you could sculpt if you didn't want to do the same set of tools that I did. For the shovel, that is going to be with the tip of the blade into the ground. Don't sculpt it all the way down into the point. Sculpt it just to the point where it's like a flat edge where it's going to go into the ground, because then when you glue it in and you kind of add a little bit more of the dirt up around it, it will look like it is buried. I am going to add a handle to this, and I'm going to do 3 basically digging tools instead of going with, say, a brush, or I even saw some like flashlights or backpacks, or there's so many different options. But I just decided to go kind of simple and stick with 3 digging or picking tools. That way, 1, the silver is going to show up really nicely against the brown background. It's going to be easy to see, whereas maybe a brush would be all browns and blend right in. And it also kind of keeps a continuity with the design and the color scheme. So I've got my first one pretty much sculpted, that little shovel. Then I'm going to do the other 2. The other thing to keep in mind when you are deciding which tools to sculpt and to make is that you have to put them all on the surface of that little piece that lifts off the nail. You don't necessarily want them to be like getting in the way or too big, so be very cognizant of size. And when you're picking out which ones to sculpt, think about how small you can sculpt the different images. So if you're thinking, oh, I would love to make this big backpack, think if you can make that big backpack really small so that it would look appropriate on the nail. After you have all of your tools sculpted, go ahead and start attaching them. The one that will be partially buried in the ground, attach with a little bit of clear acrylic at an upward tilt so that it looks like somebody just slammed it into the ground. After you attached it with clear, go ahead and kind of mask its placement and its attaching spot with some of the brown acrylic you used for your dirt. And then I'm going to take clear acrylic and go all the way up the back of that shovel to add strength. The 2 colors of acrylic that I used, the silver and the gold color, are both kind of weaker colors of acrylic. They're not ones that I'm like, oh, I'm confident in this strength. No, not the case with those. So I'm going to make sure that they are protected with that clear acrylic. After I have that done, I'm just going to add some more details, a little bit more to the handle, a little bit more to the silver portion of the back. I'm going to pick up and attach my other 2 tools. I'm not nearly as worried about those ones breaking because they are more flat to the nail. They're not sticking up like the shovel is. First one, then I'm going to put down my second one. I kind of want it to look like somebody just abandoned this dig site. After that's done, try to shove some clear acrylic underneath the ones that are laying flatter. Again, it is just to protect them. You don't want anything to break. You know, you're doing your hard work. You don't want it to just fall apart right after you're done. At this point, all that's really left to do is add some detailing with some black acrylic paint. I'm going to do a little bit of outlining on my tools just to make them a little more obvious as to what they are. And then with diluted white paint, I'm going to add some highlights to my dinosaur bones. Just any places where I'm like, you know, this can stick out a little bit more. It can be a little bit more defined. Just go ahead and highlight those a touch with diluted white paint. After you've got that done, if there's any spots like I just totally smudged, go through and fix those with some black paint. Go back and forth, white, black, as many times as is needed, and then apply some matte top coat over your dino, some matte top coat over your tools, and that's it. That is all we need to do. No top coats required over your dirt, and you can just see how that dino gets unearthed. I hope you guys love this one as much as I do. Like I said, I love to make these kind of like surprise designs, and I will see you all next time. Bye.